Welcome to College Smart Radio, helping you understand the true cost of college and tackle the runaway costs of financing a college education. College Smart Radio is hosted by Mark Guthrie and Beatrice Schultz, founders of Westface College Planning. Now, your hosts for College Smart Radio, Mark Guthrie and Beatrice Schultz.
Are you familiar with the Western Interstate Commission for Higher Education Western Undergrad Exchange program, also known as WUE or WISHE? It's a program where students who are residents of the Western group of states in the U.S. are eligible to request a reduced tuition rate of 150% of resident tuition, as opposed to non-resident tuition at some colleges can be as much as 3 times as high. On today's College Smart Radio program, we'll be discussing the WUE program, dispelling some myths about it and explaining how it really works. And it does work. Hi, I'm Beatrice Schultz. Welcome to our weekly show, College Smart Radio, where we help you tackle the runaway costs of a college education. Our show is all about bringing up-to-date and practical advice to parents who are dealing with the cost of a college education for their kids, with some private schools costing well over $60,000, a UC costing $35,000, and a Cal State University running $25,000. Parents need more help than ever. We bring you that help by sharing ways to pay less, tapping into financial aid, and prioritizing your source of funds to make sure you get through the most expensive years of your life. Based on our education and experience, we share our insights with you week in and week out. Mark and I are owners of the San Carlos-based college planning business, Westface College Planning. And we're also owners of Westface Financial and Insurance Services. And we are investment advisory representatives of the Westface Financial Advisory. We host workshops and webinars on financial planning, college financial planning, and consult with parents on a daily basis. In addition to our insights, we bring in experts in many areas of the college process, from counselors, financial professionals, financial aid officers, student coaches, parents, and even students. You'll learn firsthand the ins and outs of how to pay for college and survive financially. And in addition to our show, you can find lots of powerful information on our website, collegesmartradio.com. We have many articles with up-to-date information on navigating the waters of paying for the runaway costs of college. We also have a monthly e-newsletter full of content about college planning. And we have a link to our free community parent workshops and webinars that we host to teach parents about how to pay for college and how the financial aid system really works. So let's get into today's show. On today's show, we're going to talk about the WUE program.
WUE or WISHE? Which one?
It's so funny because everyone calls it WISHE, but it's on the website. Everyone calls it WUE, but it's on the website wishe.edu/WUE. But the WISHE is actually the group. It's the Western Interstate Commission for Higher Education. So all the states and the colleges in the states are a part of this organization. And then the Western Undergrad Exchange, or WUE, is actually the exchange program.
Right. So these schools basically got together, these states got together and said, we've got some smaller states here, and we could probably share some resources by not having walls built between states with regards to students and individual programs. So for a lot of years now, these schools have been getting together and allowing students from one state to go to another state's school for a reduced out-of-state or reduced tuition compared to the out-of-state tuition. It's a pretty neat program, and it's used by a lot of students every year to be able to attend programs that they want that might not be that close to their home, or maybe just experience a little different time and place and environment to go to college without having to pay the full out-of-state tuition at another institution.
And according to their website, and we'll have a link to that website on our collegesmartradio.com website. According to the website, they said that 36,000 students each year participate in the WISHE or WUE program. So it's not everyone that's participating, and so you're going to want to understand how you could be a part of the program.
Yeah, certainly as parents are looking around for schools for their children, I mean, we talk to parents every week, and just about all the parents have some out-of-state schools on their program, and I'd say 9 out of 10 have never even heard of this program, and we ended up introducing it to quite a few parents, and it's good to know up front, especially if your child's a junior in high school and they're just starting to get their college planning together. It's just a fantastic piece of information to have about what schools participate, but it's like most programs, not all that straightforward. Once you understand it, it's straightforward, but so is the U.S. tax code, but who really understands it? So what we hope to do today is to bring some examples of some individual schools that we'll talk about and some of the criteria that apply pretty universally to all the schools.
And I talked a little bit in my introduction saying there were some myths, and not that they are true myths, I would say, but certainly some misinformation that's out there. So let's start with how can you be eligible for what's called the WUE scholarship. And so it's not that everyone gets it. You have to have the eligibility requirements in order to qualify. Well,
that's the key. This program is not a right of a student to get reduced tuition if they just go to a university in another state, another participating program. These are scholarships. So the way you need to think about these is merit scholarships. They're not need-based, but they're merit-based. Now, the criteria is pretty clear on what it takes to qualify, so that's not a mystery, but it is often misperceived as, well, my child's in California, they want to go to Oregon, so all the schools in Oregon basically give California kids the reduced tuition. They don't charge them out-of-state tuition. Not true. Not true at all. There are some schools that do participate, some schools that don't, and not even schools that participate give every student a reduced tuition charge. So that's something that you need to be aware of.
So the states that are part of the program are really all of our western states: Alaska, Arizona, California, Colorado, Oregon, Hawaii's included, Idaho, Nevada, New Mexico. If you go and so on, well, Washington, Wyoming. So most
you got to name them because I'm not quite sure how North Dakota and South Dakota snuck in. They don't seem very western to me, but they're in there, which is interesting. And also, all of the schools in the Northern Marianas Islands are also included in this program. Now, I've never talked to a parent who's had a child that wanted to go to the Northern Marianas Islands, but they're included.
Actually, we don't have any data on those specific colleges, but if you're looking at some colleges and you think the Northern Mariana Islands would be the place to go, definitely check out the WUE site. So those states are included, but it's not every college at the states. For example, if you were from out of state and you wanted to come to California, there's only one UC that's part of the WUE program, and that's UC Merced. Most of the Cal State programs, Cal State Chico, Cal State Sonoma, Humboldt College, would all be eligible for the. You would have the eligibility. One of the eligibilities for the scholarship, that being that college participates in the WUE program. But if you were from out of one of these states and you wanted to go to UC Berkeley, there would not be a WUE program at UC Berkeley for you.
Right. Berkeley doesn't participate. Private schools don't participate in the Western Undergraduate Exchange. These are all state schools, and not all state schools participate.
And one of the things or myths that I definitely hear from parents that they think that University of Oregon is part of the program, and it is not part of the program. So University of Oregon tuition is going to cost you over $30,000 a year. But for example, Portland State is a part of the WUE program, so you could be eligible if you chose Portland State. But let's talk about the other eligibility requirements.
Yeah, before we get into an individual school, let's just cover the high level of what it's going to take, because it's not just being from California. You've got to have a GPA. You've got to have some other criteria met.
So one of the other criteria is school needs to be part of the exchange, and then also there's a minimum GPA that's required in order to qualify for a WUE scholarship. Some of the colleges have a matrix of SAT, ACT scores, and GPAs that may qualify you for the WUE scholarship. So you want to make sure you take a look at that on the site. But marks absolutely matter. The other criteria, which this is one that absolutely many parents are not familiar with, is it matters what your major is. And that when Mark introduced the programs, the reason these programs were put in place in some cases is so that not every state would have to offer every program. So there's some programs, for example, there's this Russian program at Portland State that's part of this WUE exchange, because not every college, if you're in California, you may not find a program like that, but you need to state your program and you need to choose a program that's part of the WUE exchange in order to be eligible for the scholarship.
Right. And I want to get back to that comment about GPA, high school GPA. It's not universal, but a good rule of thumb is a 3.0 or better. That is what we have seen with parents we're working with and their children applying to these other schools. We have had some parents who've had some children. They qualified with regards to the school, the program, but their GPA was below a 3.0, and that disqualified them for this scholarship. So just as a rule of thumb, as you're thinking about this, could this possibly be in our future or not to participate in one of these reduced tuition programs? It's just have in mind that it takes that average 3.0 or better GPA for a high school student in order to qualify for these scholarships.
And that's a good example that you talked about high school students, because some of these programs that offer this Western Undergrad Exchange only offer it for freshmen coming into college and don't offer it if you're a transfer coming in as a junior. But there are some colleges that do offer the scholarship for students that are transferring as juniors. So you're going to want to check that out before you fall in love with the school thinking that you're going to qualify for the WUE scholarship. Yeah,
the whole transfer as a sophomore or junior that's a whole different set of rules. So we'll probably not get into that too much today, because most of the folks I think listening and most of the folks that we work with have kids that are leaving high school and getting ready to go to a 4-year university as a freshman.
So the final criteria, and we'll talk a little bit about the examples of some of the colleges, but the other criteria is there is a deadline for the application, and this often confuses parents. There's not a specific application to apply for this scholarship. You'll automatically be considered if you meet all the criteria. But, for example, what we find is most of the colleges, you need to apply to the college by December 1st in order to qualify for the scholarship that following fall. So there is a deadline for the application to apply for college.
Right. So don't be thinking you can be here in spring or summer and be applying and be able to meet that deadline. Hey, we're gonna take a quick break. But when we come back, we're going to talk about some specific schools in Oregon, in Montana, and give you some concrete examples about tuition and what the WUE scholarship can do for you.
College Smart Radio with Mark Guthrie and Beatrice Schultz continues in moments on AM 1220 KDOW. For more information on today's topic, visit collegesmartradio.com or call area code 650-587-1559. Contact our hosts at collegesmartradio.com or call 650-587-1559. Now back to College Smart Radio with Mark Guthrie and Beatrice Schultz on AM 1220 KDOW.
Welcome back to College Smart Radio, where we help you tackle the runaway cost of college. I'm Mark Guthrie, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Beatrice Schultz. We all know that college is expensive, and we will most likely be some of the most costly years of our lives getting the kids through college. So to help families understand and deal with the cost, we host this weekly radio show called College Smart Radio. And you can always learn more about this show or other information we have at our website, collegesmartradio.com. Now, we were talking today about the Western Undergraduate Exchange, or the WUE program, which is a program for the Western United States that many public colleges participate in to help reduce the cost of tuition for students that want to go to university outside of their home state, but within the overall group of colleges that participate in this. And we were talking about some of the general requirements before we took a bit of a break, but now we're going to talk about some specific schools and get into a little bit of details. I think the first one we want to talk about, because we just had some parents who went through a little process with this school, is Portland State. And Beatrice, I think you've got some details about that. Why don't you share those?
Great. Thanks, Mark. So let's just start talking about the state of Oregon. In the state of Oregon, there are only 6 colleges that offer the WUE scholarship. So let me just kind of go through Oregon, which is Portland State. We're going to talk about the Oregon Institute of Technology, which is actually a 2-year, it is a 4-year public school, but there can also be 2-year public schools that may participate. Eastern Oregon University, Southern Oregon University, and Western Oregon University. So I'm going to talk about Portland State. Of those colleges that I mentioned, Portland State is one, as an example, that does not offer the WUE rate for transfer students. So if you're coming in as a transfer, you're not going to be looking at Portland State, but you might want to look at some of the other programs. So Portland, let's start talking about what does it mean? How much will you actually save? Well, if you qualify for the WUE program, you would, so let's start from the beginning. Sorry. As a resident tuition, if you lived in Oregon, you would pay $6,600 for tuition. Now, remember, whenever we talk on the show, we talk about the full cost of attendance. So the tuition is not the full cost. And especially if you're a California resident going to Oregon, your student's going to be living on campus. But they'll pay $6,600 towards the tuition. Now, if you have if you're a non-resident, you live in California, and you don't qualify for a WUE scholarship, you would pay $22,000. So that's a huge difference, an increase of almost $14,000 to go out of state. The way that WUE works is you would pay 150% of the in-state resident tuition. So a student who qualifies for Portland State's WUE program would pay $9,923 in tuition. They would also pay for the room and board, books, and fees. But when we add that up, it commonly would bring the total cost, though out-of-state California cost of Portland State, to about $30,000 a year, all-included cost of attendance, which comes in somewhere between, if you live in California, paying for your Chico State or Sonoma State, $25,000 for a state school, and a little less than it would cost to go to UC. So financially, many families think that this could be a good fit. The other thing for Portland is they have specific programs that you would apply to in order to qualify for the WUE. And this is what we ran into with one of our clients. They had applied to Portland State University. Intention was to apply to qualify for the scholarship, but in the application, they said they were undecided on their major. So you need to decide on your major and choose one that's in the group. And there are some specialty majors. I talked about the fact they have a special Russian program at Portland State. They have a women's studies program. They have speech and hearing science, theater arts. But they also have some more traditional majors like computer science, computer engineering, criminology, economics, electrical engineering. So for many students, these majors may be good fits for them, and that's kind of the availability at Portland State. Mark, why don't you talk a little bit about how it works at Montana, or how different it would be over there?
Sure. Well, Montana, surprisingly, is a pretty popular destination for kids in California. I don't know if they're interested in going up and experiencing the snowy winters of Montana, or they want to do some skiing or what, but we get quite a few parents who have kids who are interested in some of the schools in Montana. A lot of the schools in Montana, actually most of the large schools in Montana, do participate in the Western Undergraduate Exchange. So Montana State in Billings, in Bozeman, and Northern Montana State University all participate. And the University of Montana participates both Western and Missoula, as well as Montana Tech, which is a popular school as well. So I just want to share a few details about Montana State University in Bozeman. Now, their resident tuition is $5,330 a year. Again, not the cost of attendance, but as you can imagine, the housing in Montana is not the same as a housing would be in Berkeley or in Palo Alto. It's going to be substantially less, but nonetheless, the tuition itself would be $5,300 basically if you lived in the state of Montana. If you're a non-resident and you attend Montana State University at Bozeman, it goes from $5,330 to $19,157. So that's let's round up $20,000 a year. So it goes from $5,000 to $20,000 a year. That's $15,000 a year extra. Now, if you can get a WUE scholarship, then your tuition is 150% of the state. So it's 150% of $5,000, and it rounds up to right around $8,000. So $5,000 in-state, $20,000 if you're a non-resident. But if you can get in on a WUE scholarship, you can end up having an annual tuition of about $8,000. which is a substantial savings. I mean, it's $12,000 savings times 4 years. Let's call it $50,000. It'll get there by the time inflation kicks in. So a WUE scholarship in Montana has a value of $50,000 at least, with a little bit of inflation. So that's pretty significant. Now, as far as the programs that are participating, or as far as majors that do participate, boy, it's just about all of them. So, for example, if you're looking at engineering, all of their engineering majors qualify. Computer, electronic, mechanical, chemical, civil, all those programs are participating. And the list is quite long. Matter of fact, as I look down the list, I can't really see very many majors on here that don't qualify. For example, if you're more out, not so much in the engineering world, but more in the music world, you can have music as a major, music education as a major, and even music music technology. I got tuition on the brain. Music technology as a major. So really, I don't think there's much of an issue with regards to a particular major not qualifying at the this particular school up in Bozeman. And I think that's, as I've looked at the list from many of these schools, I think those the majors typically don't box you out. What boxes you out is the time you apply. People apply late, and you're not going to qualify. The undergraduate, the high school degree, and pardon me, not degree, but the high school GPA. Those are the two that cause most people problems. So, with that, do we want to talk a little bit about University of Nevada, Reno?
Sure. Just as another example, so anyone who's thinking about a specific school, make sure you go onto the WUE site and look up the information. University of Nevada, the cost tuition savings and the in-state resident versus WUE rate is about the same as Montana, about $5,700 if you're in-state and resident, and it would be about $8,600 if you're at the 150% tuition at University of Nevada. Now, every college, you want to understand, every college has different rules. I had said that Portland State has a requirement that you need to apply by December 1st. University of Nevada in Reno, it's February 1st. So there's going to be different rules like that, and you're going to want to check it out and understand it, and make sure that you remember that there's a criteria of a deadline, as well as the GPA, as well as the major at these colleges that qualify.
And just to also make sure you're familiar with the full 4-year program, you need to maintain a 3.0 or better GPA at most of these schools to keep your scholarship. So it's not just like you get in and then you get to not go to class for a while and kind of show up in your junior year and get serious. No, you need to maintain a 3.0 GPA each semester. They don't average it over a year, each semester at these schools. So they're quite strict in the fact that they want serious students attending, applying, and serious students attending their schools.
Make sure you check out the website and check out our website, collegesmartradio.com. Under resources and links, you're going to see a link to this website, and hopefully you can answer any other questions that you have related to the WUE program. Well, that wraps up another weekly show of College Smart Radio. We hope you picked up some new information today that helps you figure out ways to manage the runaway costs of college. You can hear us each week here on KDOW 1220 AM Saturdays at 3 p.m. We promise to bring you up-to-date information from the front lines of helping parents deal with the most expensive years of their lives. For a link to a podcast of this show and our prior weekly show, please go to our website, collegesmartradio.com. In addition to the podcast, you'll find a schedule of our upcoming shows. Also, plan to join us at one of our upcoming Westface College planning workshops and webinars. You can do so from the show's website, collegesmartradio.com. This is Beatrice Schultz.
And this is Mark Guthrie.
Thanks for tuning in to College Smart Radio. We look forward to sharing more helpful information with you next week.
You've been listening to College Smart Radio with Mark Guthrie and Beatrice Schultz. If you have questions on today's topic, log on to collegesmartradio.com or call area code 650-587-1559. That's 650-587-1559. And join us next week at this time for another edition of College Smart Radio on AM 1220 KDOW.
Information presented during today's show is not to be construed as advice meeting the particular needs of any investor. All mention of performance is based on historical experience. It should not be assumed that past performance is any indication of future results. Tax Center legal advice is not offered by Mark Guthrie or Beatrice Schultz. Please consult your tax professional for additional guidance regarding tax-related matters. Mark Guthrie and Beatrice Schultz are owners and investor advisor representatives of Westface Financial Advisory. College planning services offered through Westface College Planning. Insurance services offered through Westface Financial and Insurance Services. License number OF 35251. Financial planning and investment advisory services offered through Westface Financial Advisory.